Australians came up with the pressure relief valves that allowed those sealed silos to breathe and basically be very tight in terms of air. So.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our 30 minutes for the keynote space. So please join me in thanking Dirk for such a nice overview of the technology intervention area. Okay, our next speaker is Alexandra Spieldoch from Compatible Technology International, or CTI. She is been the executive director, I think, since early in 2014. And prior to her role with CTI, she served as a coordinator of the network of women ministers and leaders in agriculture, and as a food security policy analyst with WOCAN. I know CTI is a very capable and broad-based implementing partner for AID and other donors. So we welcome her today to make her talk on reducing grain losses through the introduction of mechanized per-minute threshing tools in Senegal.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me talk today. I feel like after lunch, it would have been nice to have music, Youssou N'Dour or Michael Jackson or something to get us kick-started. I promise I won't sing for you. But I'm here today to talk about Compatible Technology International and to tell you a little bit about one of our programs in Senegal, and to share with you some of our insights, our successes, as well as areas of growth. CTI, just to get started, is a US-based NGO. Our headquarters are in St. Paul, Minnesota, which is not far from Canada. It's a cold state. It's an agricultural state, and we have various programs around the world. We also have tools in over 40 countries. And we've been around for over 30 years. And interestingly, few have heard of us until the last few years. We started off, we were pretty much born out of General Mills. Our founder retired from General Mills as a food scientist and started the organization, which was essentially, for much of its existence, a network of technical experts from the various food companies, from the University of Minnesota, et cetera. But the emphasis of the organization has always been primarily on post-harvest handling and processing for smallholders. And I think we're one of the first so-called appropriate technology organizations looking at this and trying to kind of think through some of the challenges, and perhaps overemphasizing in the beginning the technologies as a standalone rather than seeing them as part of a broader program. We look at a whole variety of technology solutions, and here's a list. I won't read through that, but you can see it's been pretty comprehensive. We started off in potato processing in India, maize storage in Guatemala. We've dabbled in various aspects of all of these types of technologies. And we have a particular bias or emphasis on what we call smallholder crops, and really looking at, I think, what have been themes at this conference, grains, particularly sorghum, millet, and emerging research on rice, actually. Legumes, groundnut research that we've been engaged with ICRISAT in Southern Africa for the last few years, and also looking at roots and tubers. Breadfruit processing in Haiti as one example, and so on. Again, thinking about and talking about the shift for CTI, and I think it's important to talk about this shift because, again, moving away from tools as a standalone solution, but looking at the organization and organizing the organization as a post-harvest solutions provider. And for us, that really involves a few important components in terms of really rethinking R&D, so that it is done in direct collaboration with farmers. We see farmers as co-designers, and women farmers in particular, because we're talking about post-harvest solutions. but also looking at all of the challenges around the supply chain and what does a sustainable supply chain look like? How can we promote and build capacity, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa where we are mostly focused, with manufacturing partners, in-country distributors, et cetera? And how can we be more creative with technology promotion, moving away from the more traditional sort of demonstration sites as the basis for our expansion, but thinking about promotion sites or promotion spaces where you've got the farmers and the different market actors together talking about possible solutions and thinking more creatively, frankly. How can our work build on what is already an enabling policy environment where there are food security, nutrition initiatives underway is absolutely critical. We don't want to do our work in a void. We understand that partnerships and existing structures are the way in which to leverage work and to have an impact. And then lastly, women's leadership, absolutely critical for CTI, and particularly looking at how our tools are a catalyst for local food processing, decentralized food processing, and women-led processing in particular as a way to really transform the rural sector and to see more economic value with our tools, as well as, of course, household food security and all the reverberation effects that go along with that. I mentioned all of this, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. Let me talk a little bit about our post-harvest program in West Africa, and we've been very pleased with the results of this program and also thankful for the support of USAID and a small amount of research support from the Gates Foundation in order to build what is now a growing program. We started this program actually early. R&D was in 2009, 2010, but when in both Senegal and Mali, actual exploration of kind of what the terrain would look like, we pulled out of Mali due to political conflict and we remained in Senegal. A key component of the program is really sort of understanding the value of pearl millet in Senegal. So not starting with a tool, but starting with the understanding of that context. We know that pearl millet is the most widely grown crop in Senegal. We know that it grows well in hot, dry climates. We know that it's a nutritious crop. We also know that it's a smallholder crop, and it's very much integrated into all of the cultural traditions within, or many, I should say, within the country, and that's important. We know a general idea about the number of millet farmers, so 230,000 farmers in Senegal, and we also know that most of the final preparation of pearl millet is in fact a process exclusively done by women, and that there's potential for regional growth, because for us, we want to be able to pilot in Senegal, but then also look at the expansion potential, and again, the leveraging through regional growth is important, and regional markets. 95% of the farmers are in fact threshing with a mortar and pestle, and that's really our competitor, the mortar and pestle. Now, I won't spend too much time on this slide either. I think I've alluded to the kind of the enabling policy environment, but we have the Plan Sénégal Émergent, which is a 5-year plan to basically promote self-sufficiency in the country with millet, sorghum, rice, fruits and vegetables, and again, this lays the backdrop for us to be able to contribute in a substantial way with our tools with existing programs and projects underway, looking at not only revitalizing or continuing to vitalize the rural sector, but also stronger linkages between rural and urban and the potential of processed foods to really make a difference in the growing value chain around millet in the country. And again, technologies are critical for this. There are motorized threshers in the country. They're $10,000. There are a few of them, and they move around with lesser quality, and they're less timely, and et cetera, many of the challenges that have already been discussed. So again, our particular competitor at this time is traditional. And in looking at technologies that could benefit smallholders, we went into various parts of the country to understand women farmer needs, and in particular looking at the challenges around drudgery, around their threshing preferences, how they're threshing, whether it's 1 or 2 people at a time, how many panicles at a time, et cetera, what increased yield might do to improve their potential, and why hand-operated might make sense versus motorized. We also have spent time looking at how to build African capacity We have a design lab with our engineers in the United States and various types of experts, actually, but also now working with Senegalese technical experts and manufacturers so that we can build in country. We brought a first prototype in. It was a 3-piece suite in terms of stripping the millet, threshing the millet, and then winnowing the millet. And then this is an example, just a graph in terms of what it looks like and what the different pieces do. And then we went in and to do applied research. So we did a baseline study in 4 regions of the country, each of them producing at least 10%, representing 10% of Senegalese millet production, which is important. And then we did the series of evaluation of farmers and villages, socioeconomic research on households and communities, quantitative and qualitative data, and we tried to also introduce some new applications with mobile technologies to be able to get the data real time to our team in Dakar and to our team in Minnesota. And what we found was that, in fact, our technologies improve grain quality. That was a key concern of the women farmers. The traditional mortar and pestle and even the motorized have quite a bit of broken grain mixed with stones and sand and soil, whereas our closed system is essentially closed and therefore clean. So we're looking at very high grain quality, and 88% of the farmers have indicated to us in our research that the quality is better than mortar and pestle, and that's important. And we did this research with various procedures, volumetric samples, and utilization of sieves primarily. Now, moving into yields, we also heard from the women farmers that this was important to them in terms of increased productivity and reduced loss. So we were able to see that we pretty much have 0 losses with our closed threshing system as opposed to the average 15% grain loss. And we analyzed this in terms of bundles of panicles, looking at size and length and number of the panicles within the bundles. And 93% of the users have indicated that our tools cause less grain loss and that there's a potential gain of 200 kilograms a year, which could greatly increase their income potential. And then last but not least, the reduced drudgery and time saved. That's particularly hard to measure, I might add. So we can show that our thresher unit is twice as fast as the traditional form of processing millet. However, all the time that goes into food preparation, beyond just the threshing, the gathering of the millet, et cetera, the water, the preparing the fire, all of that needs to be part of a much more comprehensive understanding of time and how our tools fit into that. We did that through controlled testing in our lab as well as in the field. And then we tested the price. We started at $500. We imported from a manufacturer in China. We brought our tools to 35 villages, and within months we sold $15,000 worth of the thresher. So we had a bit of a proof of concept, and we also could see that that's still expensive for an individual. We're really looking at targeting farmer groups and women's groups and looking at shared asset models in terms of the use and the potential of the tools. We also found out from the farmers that they had some preferences in terms of the units being put into one processing unit, so we created more of a 3-in-1 unit. We created more bulk feeding instead of individual stripping, which corresponded better to the farmers' preferences, making the tools easier for one woman to operate as a preference, and then also reducing the price to $300 based on what the farmers have been telling us. I don't have much time here, but you can see this was the individual feed for the 3-in-1 unit, and I love this picture, actually. It's a beautiful, clear day. Now, since that proof of concept, we've deployed over 100 threshers. We've trained over 1,200 women farmers. 9,000 farmers have benefited from our tools, and we're partnering with the National Extension Agency with support from the World Bank to disseminate and train the farmers, get further feedback, with a goal to reach 30,000 farmers and to increase revenue by 774,000 with surplus grain over the next 3 years. And we also are looking for those partnerships for impact and growth, and those include, again, those local manufacturers. We are working with a manufacturer in Thiès who is helping us with both the optimization but also the fabrication, the financial institutions, and there are that mix of investment banks and commercial banks to help invest in the manufacturers locally, but also the Senegalese food processing sector as a buyer of the grain, as well as lending institutions such as Locafrique to look at consignment schemes, various types of lending to farmer groups in particular that could help to create that supply chain and create that enabling environment for our tools to actually be adopted in a large way. And lastly, of course, the distributors, and that whole issue of creating demand is quite a challenge. I mentioned the importance of the technology promotion sites. Word of mouth through farmers is absolutely critical, working with the local artisans and manufacturers to promote the tools, as well as government agencies. I want to just end with this slide. I'm over time for one, but this is we just had this forum in Dakar at the end of August. Really proud of this. This is with the first ever women's forum on food, on looking at post-harvest challenges and opportunities. And we brought women farmer leaders from around the country for a full day to meet with, again, some of these actors that I've mentioned, some of the donors, to talk about what are the particular challenges, including drying and storage beyond just our threshing unit, but also to talk about the particular potential for women farm leaders organized, serving in the promotion and in the training and the setting of their own business agendas, and really getting them the support that they need so that they can really make that difference that we're all looking for in this work. So with that, I'd just like to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure, and if you have any questions, I also brought my colleague Aliou Ndiaye, who is our country director in Senegal, to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, we're just a little over time, but I'll allow for one burning question. Please get a microphone.
Alexandra, thank you very much for your presentation. Do you find that the units that you've been developing, might they be applied for other cereal grains or other crops?
Yeah, do you want to answer that? Sorry? Would they be applied for other grains or other crops, our units?
So now we have a tool for groundnut and for millet. So the tool for millet could be adapted for sorghum, but mostly we find out that it's not so valuable to have a combined machine from most of the manufacturers, so those who have experience on doing that. So we are looking for more crops, but mostly it is to find what is the real need, because usually you don't have the same crop in the same area. Okay.
And I just wanted to quickly ask, those units you sold so quickly, how did they come up with the cash? Did they were hooked into credit schemes?
So for the cash, we are trying for the farmers to have a market for the high quality grain. So that's why we're including in the program the processing unit. So looking for them, the extra grain, the high quality grain they have, they can sell it in the market and then pay back for the tools.
All right, we'll hold it there. Thank you very much for the presentation, and thanks for coming all the way from Senegal to answer some questions for the audience.